Tell me if you've seen this before too. Girls who are super, super confident, extremely successful, so pretty, like drop dead gorgeous, have everything going on for them, they're always single. And then on the other hand, guys who are super attractive, confident, super smart, everything, they're always in a relationship. Am I making this up, or have other people seen this trend too?
I'm a professional dating coach, and this is a big problem a lot of strong, independent women have when they are dating. So a lot of strong, independent women say the same thing. A lot of men get intimidated by them when they are dating them, and they find it very frustrating. But here's the truth. Only weak men get intimidated by strong, independent women, and strong, confident men find it extremely attractive. So never dim your light to let others seem bright.
You guys can literally become unstoppable, but you both gotta be there mentally.
When a guy knows that you can do better than him, and you're smart, attractive, he will start a silent war against you to have you battered, drained, down, so you don't see your own worth.
There's a lot of men out there who are straight up repelled by a woman's success and ambition. A Columbia University experiment found that single men were less interested in women they met who seemed smarter or more ambitious than they believed themselves to be. Another experiment manipulated test scores of men and women. When the man's score was lower, he was likely to feel less attracted, less masculine himself, and less interested in going on a date.
An independent woman is not for everyone. In fact, in some cases, an independent woman will actually intimidate another man. And that's primarily based on the fact that this woman does not need a man in her life. If a man is in her life for whatever reason, it's because she truly and authentically desires his presence around. And that's what exactly is the factor that is somewhat intimidating to a lot of men, because men all throughout history, we've always been needed for everything. A woman's education, a woman's bank account, a job, literally everything. Women have been entirely and solely dependent upon men. So now that women have more of their own autonomous rights and they have more liberation, they don't need men as much for many things that like they did back in the day at one point in the past. So now men understanding this, they sort of get a little intimidated by it, because they think to themselves, well, shit, if I'm not needed in her life, she can boot me out of her life whenever she sees so fit. And an independent woman, a woman who has her own shit, holds her own shit down and has her own things going on, she is not tolerant of crappy behavior, because she knows what it's like to be with someone, and she also knows what it's like to be without them. And of course, being without them sometimes brings a lot more peace than being with someone who is not the right fit for you. And independent women understand all these things. And so when men see that they are easily replaceable and very dispensable, of course, it's going to intimidate them, because they've never really been used to that. All throughout history, once again, we've always been needed for damn near everything. And now that we're not, a lot of men are intimidated by it. But this is only weak men. A strong man is not going to be intimidated by an independent woman at all. It's only a weak man that finds himself intimidated from an independent woman. Hey, if he doesn't come correct, he doesn't come right, he's going to get booted off to the curb. And it's unfortunately a very intimidating thing for a lot of guys. Independent women have a tendency of being very smart, very educated, very goal-driven, very ambitious, very clever, and very well aware of how things work in life, and also sometimes very well aware of how men operate. And this means that a man can't really come with any kind of crappy or bullshit lies, because she has the ability to detect them from a mile away. And that's why they just choose to opt out from being with independent women, because a lot of dudes can't really get away with the bare minimum effort or low quality behavior, low quality treatment. So they know this and just prefer to stay away from independent women, and that's why they get intimidated by them.
When I was 24 years old and I was in college getting my first degree, I knew that I was going to be inching closer to having more financial freedom and having a career and like really making more money. And I knew that simultaneously I was going to be taking 10 steps back from being able to be in a romantic relationship with a man. I actually had got insight from this because I would get Brazilian waxes, and the place that I went to get the waxes, it was a local place, and a woman owned it, and the woman that owned it would do my Brazilian waxes. Beautiful woman, okay, 40 years old, I'd say about 5'7", white woman, hair down her back, crazy fucking physique. Like, she was always in the gym. She looked good, okay? Body was T, and she owned the place, you know? And it was a whole spa that she owned. So you already know. Skin was looking good, body looking good, money long. She had been married and she had gotten a divorce, and she had been dating around for a little bit, and while she was waxing me, because you know, waxing time is usually tea time between women, she pretty much had expressed to me how she would be dating on the apps, and she had said that she was having a very, very hard time finding someone. And I could not wrap my head around this, because just by me looking at her, I'm like, you're beautiful, you're successful, you're well-spoken. She had an older daughter who was on her way to college, and she only had one daughter, only one child. So it wasn't like she was going to be a burden with children if a man were to come into her life. So I was just so confused as to how a woman that was just so well-rounded like her would be having a hard time dating. And she had told me that whenever, you know, men would, you know, she would tell men about like what she was all about. She said that the number one thing that most men would tell her was that there's nothing that I can do for you. You have too much going on. There is nothing that I can do for you. And that always stuck with me. That always stuck with me. And there is a deeper layer to that. Men want to feel useful, okay? But men want to feel useful at the ability of which they feel like being used. That's important, okay? Men want to feel useful doing the least amount of things. So that's the reason why they don't want someone very successful or someone beautiful, because you've done everything. You've done everything on your own. There's not much that they're going to be able to offer you when you're successful and you're beautiful that is going to make a man feel as though he is of use. And this is the reason why we live in a patriarchy now, because men were very jealous of the fact that they were not useful in any way. Women are, even if we were to burn down everything that men built, we would still be useful in the world, because we could just repopulate the world. And then if they wanted to build things, they could build things. So we are born with being useful. Men are not. Men have to have a reason to be needed. This is the reason why they don't like independent women, because they are searching for a way for them to be needed in some way. But they don't want to go above and beyond to be useful in the ways that we want them to be useful. That's why they want to go get a passport, and they want to go to Colombia, where they can get punani for 3/4 and a shilling, and be useful in that way, because they can afford being useful in that way. They cannot afford to be useful here in the United States. It's too expensive for them to be useful. So I think a thing that women have to understand is that the more agency you have over your life, men are going to like you less when you have more agency, because you have not created a space in your life for them to come in and do anything. Not that they're going to do much. For a lot of these men, they're not going to give you more than what you're giving yourself, especially when you are successful and when you are beautiful. And they know that. They want to go for the easier thing that is going to make them useful. So that was a very hard lesson for me to learn at such a young age, seeing it through the lens of the woman that was doing my waxes, because that was the reason why she couldn't find anybody. She had so much success that men did not see a way in which they could come into her life and do anything for her. That's also very intimidating for men. Because especially, I mean, she had more than most of these men, right? She had more than them. And so a lot of men are always going to ask themselves and challenge the idea of their ego. Because how come a woman can achieve that and I haven't achieved that, right? Because they already view women as being less than. They already view women as being inferior. So it's like, how did she get that in the first place? But yeah, that's the part that people don't tell women when they are, when we're out getting degrees, we're out getting beautiful, we're out having experiences. It genuinely is going to reduce the amount of men that you are able to be with, because men don't want you to have all those things, because you're making it harder for them to be of use, even though they're not providing you anything worthy.
Ladies, the more money you start to make, the harder it's going to be for you to find a partner, because we as women like to date up. Usually we want someone who makes the same amount of money as us or more, whereas men usually date down. They are not hypergamous like we are. So a guy who's making the same amount of cash as you or more will usually have no issue dating a Starbucks barista if she's super cute and makes him feel like the biggest man on campus. You probably are not going to date a Starbucks barista, let's be real. So this can mean that your dating pool is smaller. Also, you're competing with women who are probably younger than you, because to get to the point you've gotten to financially takes time. And they're more malleable, easily impressed, they're more in their feminine energy, maybe they're pretty. So you have a lot more competition as well. So what can you do to separate yourself from the pack? A few things. First, recognize that you're probably operating in your masculine energy, and men that you're going for do not want that. So you have to lean into your femininity. I have a whole course dedicated to this. It's linked in my bio, check it out. Second is you have to start investing in your appearance, because the more money a man makes, the more he's going to prioritize that. He already has his wealth. He's looking for a feminine asset who looks good on his arm. So spend the money you're making on things like personal training, estheticians, cosmetic procedures, whatever you got to do. And third, a lot of you don't want to hear this, but date older, okay? Because there's less competition with the older guys. Follow me for more dating tips, and good luck.
So you're a successful woman and you are struggling in your dating life. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Daddy Academy. So I've worked with a lot of women who are very successful, millionaires, owning their businesses, travel around the world, and not all of them have trouble finding men. When you're a successful woman, though, there are different challenges. Like, there's going to be a lot of men who are like below your bar, who are too insecure to even give you a shot. You're not even going to like them, and it's just not going to work. It's just part of the consequence of being, in this new bracket. Also, sometimes a lot of your options, when you are in that elevated status, right, you're going to deal with men who have a lot of options. So it's kind of tricky. But just kind of understanding that, this is kind of the reality, that's kind of like the first step. But that being said, I've worked with very successful women who have no trouble whatsoever finding men, wanting men to take them out. And it's just kind of like them just weaving through it the way you would typically, handle the dating process, and just making sure these are good guys and blah, blah, blah. And then there are other women who really struggle with finding guys that want to take them out and all that kind of stuff. But what's the difference? The difference that I see, we all have different coping mechanisms, okay? Your coping mechanism could be, at the very lowest level, something like drugs or alcohol, right? And those are very obvious. When you see somebody who's struggling with drugs or alcohol, it's very sad, it's low energy, it's like, he's coping with something, he's obviously sad. But there's a flip side too, okay? Some people can use hyperfixation on work and goal achievement also as a coping mechanism. The thing about that is that from the exterior, it looks really healthy. Like, oh, that's a really hard worker, right? Even something like working out, going to the gym, being too obsessed with the gym could even be a coping mechanism, right? To an extent. But it's understanding that, right? So if you are a successful business owner and you're working and you're working and you're working, but you're not feeling any better about yourself, in my opinion, you need to take a little bit of a step back, okay? You need to say to yourself, can I still get the same production out of my business, whatever I'm doing, if I took away 30% focus on that and put that 30% focus back into myself when it comes to self-help, health and wellness, and putting that energy into yourself, okay? Because as a woman, right, we talk about masculine energy, feminine energy. We all have that within us. So, right, I have masculine and feminine energy. You have masculine and feminine energy as well, right? When you're working and you're striving for a goal, that's very masculine usually, right? So it's a masculine trait. But that is not you. Your job is not you. So if you're hyper fixated on that, you're tapping into an energy source within yourself that isn't you. It's a part of you, but it's not your core essence. So when I say take 30%, put it back into yourself, that is for that self-discovery, finding that peaceful balance and center. And you might say, Nico, I do that. Accomplishment. I'm doing that. No. It's less about the doing and more about the feeling, right? I'm reading this book because of how it's making me feel. I'm doing this class because it's making me relaxed. And you're not doing something just to check off a box on a to-do list. So really grounding yourself and realizing there's work me and then there's me, and creating that separation within your life is the first major key to being more attractive to these high quality men. Because the reason why a high quality man who makes a lot of money, super successful, wouldn't want to date you and would want to date somebody else is the energy polarity that you're giving off. Dating and this game of dating is about attraction, okay? And two high masculine presences aren't going to attract. There needs to be a polarity. And if a man sits down with you and it feels like he's on a business meeting, that's not hot. Okay, that's not fucking hot. That's going to be pretty repulsive to most guys. So figuring out how to tap into that other side of yourself and flip it on and off. Like when you're on a date, no talk about fucking business. Talk about how the business makes you feel, how you love what you do. I'm passionate about what I do, not the fiscal year we had this year. Like, like that shit is going to repulse a man, okay? Talk about the feelings, tapping into the softness. And these are things that like a guy, and just because energetically, I mean, the word energetic beings, we feel things, we get intuition. We'll just feel this off you right away. Even from looking at your dating app profile, looking at your social media, like a guy can get an energy from you that he's going to put you in a box. Either maybe, yeah, oh, she's hot, I'll hook up with her, but she seems kind of like too macho for me. Like, I don't know if I like that. Will the right man for you have you sitting in your more feminine? 1,000%. That is a big part of this. With the right man, you're going to sit naturally more in your feminine and it'll be a great fit. But we have to do the work ourselves too. We can't rely on someone else to have us feeling like the healthiest, best version of ourselves or the version that you want to be. Like if this isn't a problem for you, you wouldn't be watching this video 6 minutes in. So there's obviously some part of you that wants to kind of like recalibrate how you're feeling and how you're thinking. This is a major first step of it. Separating that work you from the real you, and taking that 20-30% of energy out of the fixation on the business and putting it back into yourself and finding that love for the life that you have and that you live, and just loving the fact that you're alive and you're grateful for everything you have and truly feeling that, not just saying that to check off the box, truly feeling it. Like I said, I've worked with women who are millionaires who have no trouble with men whatsoever. And I've worked with women who make that same amount of money who struggle to even get a date. And the biggest difference is how they're sitting in their masculine and feminine energy. You could be super successful and it doesn't matter, right? If you're giving off that feminine, soft, loving vibe when you're with a man, it's attractive. If you're giving off, you're one of the bros and we're trying to hit our goals this month, it's not as attractive.